Christmas, a time of joy, family, and togetherness. But throughout history, even this season of peace hasn't been immune to the shadows of tragedy. Let's explore moments when the spirit of the holidays was overshadowed by sorrow, starting with two events that changed the course of history forever. On Christmas Eve 1979, the Soviet Union launched a full-scale invasion of Afghanistan. This act of aggression ignited a war that lasted nearly a decade, displacing millions and leaving the region scarred. For Afghan families, that Christmas was not marked by the exchange of gifts, but by the sounds of bombs. This invasion wasn't just a military move. It was a domino that toppled countless lives, setting the stage for decades of conflict that continue to ripple through history. Another tragic Christmas unfolded in 1941 during World War II. Dubbed Black Christmas, the fall of Hong Kong to Japanese forces marked the beginning of a brutal occupation. For the residents of Hong Kong, Christmas Day brought no hope or celebration. Instead, it brought widespread suffering. Civilians faced atrocities, and the city was plunged into a nightmare of despair. These events remind us of the resilience of the human spirit in the face of darkness. Christmas may symbolize hope and renewal, but history shows us that even this sacred season has seen its share of sorrow. Let's continue our journey as we uncover more tragic moments that have left an indelible mark on the world. Wars and conflict, Christmas in the crossfire. Christmas, a time of peace and goodwill. Yet, in some of history's darkest chapters, this season became a battleground where violence and despair replaced hope and joy. Let's uncover two devastating stories of war and conflict that cast long shadows over the holiday season. In December 2008, the Lord's Resistance Army, an infamous militant group, launched a series of brutal attacks across the Democratic Republic of Congo. The violence reached its horrific peak on Christmas Day, leaving over 600 people dead and countless more displaced. We heard them coming. Christmas was supposed to be safe. Instead, it became a nightmare. Entire families were wiped out, churches were burned, and the air was filled with the echoes of grief. While the world celebrated, these communities were left to mourn in silence, far from the media spotlight. Turning back the clock to 1941, we find another Christmas marred by war. Dubbed Black Christmas, December 25th marked the surrender of Hong Kong to Japanese forces during World War II. For the city's residents, the holiday became synonymous with fear, hunger, and violence. Christmas Day saw no festive lights or songs in Hong Kong, only the grim realization of what lay ahead under occupation. This was not just a loss of territory, but a deep scar etched into the lives of those who endured it. These stories remind us of the fragility of peace and the devastating toll of conflict. Even during a season meant for unity, history has shown us how war spares no one, not even on Christmas Day. Natural disasters, when nature stole Christmas. Christmas often symbolizes the warmth of family and the comfort of tradition. But sometimes, nature reminds us of its unpredictable power, turning holiday celebrations into unimaginable tragedy. Here are two devastating natural disasters that struck during the season of joy. The Christmas flood of 1717, Netherlands. In the early hours of Christmas morning in 1717, a powerful storm surge swept across the Netherlands, Germany, and Scandinavia. Known as the Christmas flood, this disaster left over 14,000 people dead and countless communities destroyed. On Christmas Eve 1913, a festive party for striking miners and their families was held at the Italian Hall in Calumet, Michigan. The air was filled with laughter and holiday cheer until tragedy struck. A false cry of fire triggered a panic stampede, resulting in 73 deaths, mostly children. This disaster wasn't just an accident. Many believe it was a deliberate act by those opposed to the miners' strike, adding a sinister layer to this heartbreaking event. The Italian Hall disaster remains a poignant reminder of the potential potential for malice during times of joy. Jumping back to Christmas Eve 1851, another tragedy unfolded, not of human lives, but of human knowledge. A massive fire broke out in the Library of Congress, destroying nearly two-thirds of its collection, including irreplaceable works of history, science, and culture. This was more than just a fire. It was a cultural catastrophe that erased priceless pieces of humanity's shared legacy. Though the library was eventually rebuilt, the loss serves as a haunting reminder of how fragile our shared heritage can be. On Christmas Eve 1953, a passenger train in New Zealand was packed with travelers excited to celebrate the holidays. But as the train approached the Whangaeu River, a volcanic eruption had triggered a massive lahar, weakening the railway bridge. As the train crossed, the bridge collapsed, sending carriages plunging into the icy river below. 151 lives were lost in one of New Zealand's worst rail disasters. For those who survived, Christmas became a day forever etched in grief. On Christmas Eve 1972, tragedy struck in Chicago when a commercial flight bound for New York encountered extreme blizzard conditions. The plane struggled to gain altitude, ultimately crashing into a residential area near the airport. All 45 passengers and crew aboard the plane perished, along with 2 people on the ground. The crash not only claimed lives, but also destroyed the homes of families preparing to celebrate Christmas, marking a chilling reminder of life's fragility. On Christmas Eve 1865, while much of the United States was celebrating the end of a long and bloody Civil War, a group of Confederate veterans gathered in Pulaski, Tennessee. What began as a social club quickly evolved into the Ku Klux Klan. The Klan would go on to become one of the most infamous symbols of racial hatred and violence in American history. Its foundation on Christmas Eve serves as a dark irony, contrasting the season's message of love and goodwill. Christmas Day, 1941, marked the end of the Battle of Hong Kong during World War II. After weeks of brutal fighting, the British colony fell to Japanese forces in what came to be known as Black Christmas. Following the surrender, the residents of Hong Kong endured atrocities, mass executions, assaults, and widespread suffering. For many, Christmas became a time not of celebration, but of survival, a stark reminder of war's devastation. Dark societal events like these reveal the complexities of history and the fragility of peace. They stand as somber reminders that even during the season of goodwill, humanity's darker side can emerge. Yet, they also inspire us to strive for a better, more united future. Thank you for joining us as we reflected on the events that have overshadowed Christmas throughout history. If this video moved you, consider sharing it to keep these stories alive. Together, we can honor the lessons they teach and work toward a brighter future.